you have to come out of that shell and be willing to show somebody something, tell somebody something, or have something that's valuable to somebody else.
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On today's episode, we have David Bryant, who is the owner of Moonlight Techs LLC, a San Diego-based consulting firm that has been solving complex ID challenges since 1994. Under his leadership, the company supports businesses of all sizes, government agencies, and military installations, offering services from networking to e-commerce solutions to computer diagnostics, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. David, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Glad to have me. Glad to be on.
Excellent, man. The pleasure's all mine. I'm really excited to get into some of the stuff that you're doing with Moonlight here. But before we get too far into it, I'd love to start with a quick background. It looks like you have a very robust or rich history in the IT world. So why not let's start with just a couple of minutes on who you are, where you came from, and how you came to be the owner of Moonlight Techs.
Yeah, so it started out, I was very curious. I was the nerdy kid growing up. And I remember one year I think the last year in high school, we all were buying those chess games. And, you could play chess against yourself or against an opponent. And I was just so curious on how this little box with a 9-volt battery could figure out how to play chess. And so I opened it up and all I saw was this big square board with these little square and round things on it. I said, I'm going to figure out what this is. And that got me started into computers, eventually into programming. And then the love of that actually led to, business pursuits. But the second thing was that I actually started out, I started with two friends of mine. We were all working at the same place. And I remember starting and just, grinding it out and getting going and just realizing that I was doing, 95% of the work. And I called my attorney and I said, hey, these guys aren't really, helping as much as I thought. He says, how can I, give that? He says, well, you guys are equal partnerships, so you're going to have to pay them out, 1/3 each. And I remember going to the first guy and I said, hey, look, I want to take the company a different direction. Hope you want to come, but if not, if you sign these pages, I'll give you a check for this. He says, wow, that's awesome. Signed the paper and gave him the check. And the second guy did the same thing. He said, man, this is like money for doing nothing. I said, boy, you ain't kidding. so, so that was the early days of Moonlight Techs. I kind of I didn't buy my freedom, but I bought the work and, began doing, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And it's been very good because I've been exposed to so many things. It's good to, whether you should say being, a foot deep and a mile wide. And, over the years, you get deeper and deeper as you get into different solutions and things you've seen over time. But that's the genesis of how we got started and how my interest in it came about.
You seem like a very curious person in terms of just like your pursuit of all of this stuff. And
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe you could share how that's helped and maybe how that has maybe hindered some of this. The old saying, curiosity killed the cat. And
The
you
satisfaction
seem to
brought
have
him
nine
back.
lives, David. That's what I'm trying to say. It seems like a cool endeavor, but what kind of came up for you along the way there?
I remember, I was married in 86 and my son was born in 92. Of course, as most married couples, we got ourselves financially upside down and whatnot. And I said, oh, we can't, I can't be like this, if we're going to have a baby. So,
Mm.
we kind of straightened that out. And once he was born, the company I was working for at the time, um, lost the contract, whatever contract. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, Gary, does that mean I moved back to the group I just came out of? He says, no, son, we lost the one that keeps the lights on. I said, holy cow. And I was in a daze going home thinking my kids needs to eat in about an hour and a half. What am I going to do?
Mm.
And I sat there and I thought, no, wait a minute. I've been programming for these guys. Maybe I could program for myself. And, you call up friends and family in the church, and however you usually get started. And man, I was doing everything. Um, if you needed your garden hose spliced, I'd do it. Just write the check. I
Yeah.
was kind of out there doing everything, and I found that without a plan, you'll just run amok. And I remember one day just sitting down. I said, "Wait a minute. Okay, what can I do? What kind of service can I offer somebody?" Because I had to figure out I need to get to an income level that would cover things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, if I had 12 customers that I can offer service that I can make $100 a week from, then that's $4,800 a month, and that's on 48 hours of work. If it took me 1 hour to do whatever that was. And with that plan, I never reached those numbers, but what happened was that because I had a plan, I got some customers that were on board with that rate, some that would call me occasionally, and the mix is what moved you forward. And then you got better at discerning, what issues were and how people are calling you and things that are going on. And over time, you get a little seasoned and you understand how things go. And that was kind of the genesis of how I moved from just, flailing my hands to having a plan.
Mm.
And, and it actually worked out. I remember looking at my income after about a year and a half, because I was still sending out resumes. I was still kind of scared. But I sat down, I said, man, I just can't go out tonight. I said, I'm just going to figure out how much I've made so far. And I realized I'd made like about 5 or 6,000 more than my job. And I'm like, holy cow. Okay, maybe this has some potential. And it took a few years, but it kind of, it's like stairs. It's not a straight line. So you go up, you plateau, you go up, you plateau, you come back a step, as you try to get into new things. But those getting into new things is what made me valuable to other people. Because, you have a good personality. You show up on time. I mean, that's almost 90% of it. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
telling the guy you're going to be there at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever, and do the work. And if the work's actually good, he goes, well, heck, we might call you back on something else. And that eventually happened. Then I was just into managing the clients. And, that's a better position than trying to find clients, but you
Right.
still have to grow. And, those lessons I've learned over the years. But at least I had some kind of base to build from, and it was all organic because I didn't feel like I could borrow any money, so I did
Mm.
everything, what they call it, bootstrap.
Yeah.
If I made 400 over here, then I took 100 and invested it over here so I could, make 400 over there. So
There's that whole there's that curiosity again, right? I wonder if I
Mm-hmm.
can do this. And
Mm-hmm.
then you try it and you do. And then you keep trying it and then you figure out that, hey, actually, I can.
Yeah, yeah,
That's such a relatable journey. I know for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, I'm sure they can attest to the same kind of feeling of like, oh, I don't know if it's possible, but I think it might be. So let me give it a shot. And then you go out there and you do it and you get this evidence that supports that belief that you can do something more than, being an employee, clocking in and clocking out and put your 40 hours
yeah.
in and go home. And so it creates this a spark to want to keep going and keep building. So could you share what that evolution looked like for you in terms of maybe some revenue milestones and then what roles were kind of adjacent to that as you kind of um, continued down the path from being the solopreneur to being where you're at now?
Yeah. So I remember, I would just leave home every day, intent on talking to somebody and getting my name out there.
Mm.
Um, and I end up getting into an industry dealing with law firms and car dealerships. Don't tell me how, I don't know how I ended up doing that, but I did a lot of websites for each. And then, of course, as I did those things, then they said, well, hey, my computer in the back is messed up and my computer in the front is messed up. And, so I kept getting I'll call it bigger and better clients. And then it afforded me the opportunity to start thinking about what I wanted to offer. It's nice to get a check, but a check without a purpose, you may not be able to get that again. So you have to have, I mean, that's, I think the biggest thing that I would drive is that you have to have a purpose. A man with a plan trumps almost everything.
Right.
Because even a lousy plan will show you what you're not supposed to do. And then it's just a matter of whether you have enough resources to hang in there to figure out what you are supposed to do. I remember when I graduated from college, I attended, or when I graduated from high school, I was supposed to go to UC Irvine. My sister was there, and she said, "Hey, Dave, they have a great computer science program." I said, "Great." So I started applying, and like any teenager, I missed something, so they told me that I wouldn't get in that year, but I'd be great for next year. And I was like, Dad's going to kill me if I have to tell him that I'm not going to college this year. So I went to, I signed up at City College, and I went and took all the upper level class. So if they had accounting 101, I took accounting 201. And when I did that year, I went to one of the counselors. She said, "Oh, I see you don't have accounting 1. Yeah, but I got a B in 201. So I must have figured something out." And they were just insistent that you can't you got to have both accounting sides or, classes or whatever it is. And they had a program on campus to, 4-year colleges were coming to the campuses to pull students. And National University was one. And they looked at my transcript and they said, "Well, we can take all this stuff except humanities." I said, "That sounds great. I don't even know what that is." And so here I am, I think 19 and going to National University, which at that time was a working college. So I was in the class with like 40-year-olds. And this is where I got the business spark, is that at lunch, because it was like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. was when classes were. And so we'd all take a break, go to the break room. And this one guy says, "Hey, I sold my stock. We bought a yacht. Me and my wife, we traveled and so on. So, and I get around him and say, 'Man, I just made crew chief at McDonald's.'" And they're like laughing. And I told them, I said, "But I do want to own a computer store." They said, "Oh, well, I said, "Well, I actually want to own 7." They said, "Why 7? Well, I want to make sure I have something to do every day." And there's another round of laughter. But they started asking me about Net 30 and all. I didn't even know what that was. They said, "Well, you can buy products. You have 30 days to pay it back. And then obviously you've got that float to, make your revenue before you get in." But all those things just gave me the spark to get out and go after it. And I remember, like I said, I made my plan. I went from 0 to 36,000, and then the 50,000, and then the 75,000. I'm like, man, I don't know what it was, but something hit when I crossed 50,000. And I said, wait a minute. Now, if I can make 50,000 on my own without having to be, at point X, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., this is something, Now,
Right.
the realization is that you're going to be somewhere from 8 to 5.
Yeah.
You're probably going to work more hours, but it is going to be your boat, and that's the difference.
So when it came to your to the kind of efforts that you put out to kind of grow the company, there's this balancing act between fulfilling on the work that you're pointing at, right? Like there's work to be done, I got to keep doing that work. But then on the other side of it, it's like, oh, I also have to go find more clients so that I can keep growing and increasing, my my revenue and maybe build a team and do all these other things. So what does that kind of growth plan look like for you? Like what really helped kind of help get you in front of the right people and getting more yeses and closing more deals?
I think it was just be willing to, like you said, raise your hand and say, "I can do it." Because at that time, right now everything's all based around certifications because there was no standardized way to figure out what somebody could actually do based on what they said they knew. And I'm not sure if that's changed much, just, because there's some people that are just good at taking tests and they just, they'll get it, but they won't retain it. unless you use it. But I think the thing is that you gotta tinker a little bit, because that, to me, that locks it in. When I'm working on something and I'm like, okay, that connects to this. I wonder if I make two connections, will it go twice as fast or half as fast? And you're just figuring out what's making something work. And tinkering is what gives you the wisdom from the knowledge that you're gaining.
Mm.
And I remember a funny meme that somebody said, knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put that in a fruit salad.
Right.
And so you have to get experienced in whatever it is that you're doing. If you're doing woodworking, then you've got to be able to do those things and show somebody what it is. And I found that I had to have some examples to show people.
Mm.
And as I built those examples, in my case, they were websites and, different things. I said, hey, I started putting a price on those. I said, well, look, I've already built this. So how come I couldn't just duplicate this, give it to Mr. X and, charge him his fee? And that worked because they could see that it worked and that it was viable, and that, then I could add to it, and it was a standardized template. And I guess that's been my claim to fame is standardization. One is because obviously the more work you get, you can't customize, a million products, but you can, if you standardize, you can order a million products and get a really, really good deal because somebody says, hey, this guy's willing to order, a heavy volume. And that is the key, I think, is just understanding how you can standardize so that you benefit from what they call it, scale.
Right. I'm a
You may
huge
have to build your
proponent to
first
that.
couple, and then you have to be able to see what can I do to make sure that this comes off the same way, the same time, all the time. And that was, the old days, that was the manufacturing, making bolts and widgets and all that stuff. And now we're all doing it electronically. So at least me, that's, my case.
Yeah, once you make something that really works, what's stopping you from providing that same solution for other people, even though you're
Mm-hmm.
efficient at doing it, it's still something that's useful and has a tremendous amount of value, especially in a digital world where, like websites, for example, a website is a tool, it's a stepping stone for to bridge
Mm-hmm.
the gap between strangers and your business. And if you
Right.
have an effective way to do that, and it benefits those businesses can help more people get what they need in life, then you're doing a huge service to the whole community or to the whole kind of ecosystem of all of that. And I think that's just super important as leaders in business to identify that that's what you're up to. Like that's a big part of the responsibility that you
Mm-hmm.
take on. When it comes to you know, intentionally growing your business, what advice do you have for people who are kind of playing around with how to execute on marketing or how to go out there and make a good sales pitch or how to turn a stranger into a client? What's your strategy? How do you take on that task?
For me, what I've found is obviously I don't mind talking to people, although I would consider myself an introvert, because I'd rather sit in the corner and work on some code than,
Yeah.
talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, you have to come out of that shell
Hmm.
and be willing to show somebody something, tell somebody something, or have something that's valuable to somebody else.
Right.
So whatever it is that you can make or do, um, you may have to put a couple of examples out there. I mean, that was the best way that I found, because I could contact somebody and I say, hey, look, here's what a $500 website looks like. Here's what a $1,200 website looks like. Here's what a $3,000 website looks like. And they could see it. And sometimes people have vision, but they can't see what you can do about it unless they see what you have. I mean, when you go look at a car, you go, oh, I like that car.
Right.
I've had, automatic windows, so and so, all these features. And it draws you in because, okay, this exists. So for X dollars, I can have this product. And the next thing is to create desire. Um, and that's what I'm looking at now is uh, building desire by um, by solving very common issues. And, if you don't know how to make, chicken soup, then you can go get a book, you can give it a try and, you know, and learn. But somebody has to say, hey, a chicken soup is really, really good for, it gives you vitamins, minerals. It's actually even good for colds. And you're like, you know what? He's right. Mom used to give me chicken soup. I do need chicken. You have to create a need. You're not trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, but you're just trying to show them that there's a solution out there that they might not have thought of.
Mm.
That's why people come to your house and say, hey, you thought about putting in new windows and doors? And you're like, I kind of have. That's a little bit beyond what I want to try to do, in the
Yeah.
garage on the DIY, but you've already got people to do it and it's done. And um, so I think the need is created by um, something in front of them and something they can taste and touch. And
You know what's really cool is you reminding me of some of my really, really early day stuff. There's when it comes to like sales, marketing, communications, all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
there is a basic set of principles that, if followed, work very effectively. And so I'm going to give you
Right.
two things here. The first thing is um, when I was like, I think I was still in high school or just coming out of high school, and one of my first early jobs was door-to-door sales for Kirby vacuums. And
Mm.
the whole idea of Kirby vacuums was we were going to come to your house, we were going to vacuum one of your rooms, clean it up, make it real nice, show you how powerful this thing is. And then one of the tactics that they gave us was hand the vacuum over to the homeowner and allow
Mm.
them to use it. And this idea of putting the product in somebody's hands
Mm.
gives them a
Yeah,
sense of ownership over it. So I think that's what you're kind of pointing at is like if you could have something that
that's
you could
true.
put in someone's hands, they can see it, they can feel it, they can taste it, they can experience it, whatever it is, and then that's going to increase the likelihood of them making a decision positively towards the thing. Now, the other thing that you pointed at here, and I think this is really important, sales isn't about tricking people into doing things. I
Right.
see sales as have you ever been driving down the road and you just kind of looking around and in the lane next to you you notice that the car beside you has a flat tire and is just driving down the highway.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm not here to do anything. I just want you to know you have a flat tire,
Hmm.
right? I might own a car, like a tire sales uh place or whatever. Like I might be a mechanic or whatever. It doesn't matter. But the point is that
Hmm.
if I am present to problems that you might have, and I am driving by your thing, and I go, hey, look, your tire's flat. I can help you fix that. Let's pull over
Hmm.
and let me throw one of the tires that I have in my truck on your vehicle, and
Right.
then you can carry on and you'll be just fine. And if you need help later on, remember me because I helped you do this
Yeah.
thing. So there's this
Right.
really cool idea of finding people where they're at with the problems that they're having, and then letting them know that you can solve them with a very specific solution, and then putting that solution in their hands, letting them
Hmm.
see it, feel it, experience it, and then the likelihood that they want to work with you goes up because of your ability to give that value up from a place of no expectation. And I love that that's a part of your framework. So
Hmm.
so I guess David, the real thing is now is okay, we're in business, we've been around for a long time, things are working out, you have proven to yourself that you're capable, and now what is on the horizon? What are you aiming at? What are some of the big goals that you're kind of looking forward to in the future for the business?
Well, two things I want to, I don't know if that's the right term, is bulletproof the business or
Okay.
uh document the business. I'm really good at documentation,
Mm-hmm.
so that I have a son and I have two daughters, so that they or somebody in there can take it over, and they won't have to know what I know. And I had exceptional curiosity and exceptional things to get in there, but I want to get it to a point where, if you can deliver this, you'll make this. If you can deliver that, you can make that. I want it to survive the next generation. I'm a grandpa now, so
Oh,
I want
cool.
to see things set up, and I'm setting up all the legal things for all that. But I think I want to see it exist beyond me.
Mm,
So I think the one thing to do now is to figure out what's the core of it, and then what sits around the core. Because if you can identify what the core things are, then you make sure you do those, and then you can add on services, in a
mhm,
wider and
mhm.
wider, um, circumstance to keep going. And you want to bring it down so that it's easier for somebody else to come in and run it or maintain it. I'm still in the creative mode, so
Right.
I've got one client that has a tire business, and does millions of dollars, and but he's got a couple locations, and he was trying to figure out a way to, because he was always had to get on the phone and tell him, yeah, I've got this type of tire, that type of tire, this type. He knew,
Mm,
and his number one guy knew, um, and his wife knew. But if anybody else answered the phone, they'd say, hey, they had to call him or one of the other people to do those things. So I developed a program where they could walk around with a iPad or a phone or something, take pictures of the tire, put the information in, and then it jumps up on a website, so that you can say, hey, you can go to my website now and go find the type of tire you would. And there's a certain way that people in the industry look up tires. So I had to make sure I use that same coding, so that as those things got added, he knew, or the customers could see it's either here or it's in the other location, and how much shipping, how much, what it is, and all that kind of stuff. So it's basically an e-commerce site, but it's one that he could pass off to everybody else. Because I said, hey,
right.
look, all I want to do is put in this program how you do things, so that your sons and your cousins or wherever else you put in charge of these things can run it. And that was the selling point. That he says, yeah, man, I'm in the system. The way we looked at it. And he still has a successful business, and that was the thing that got me into building something for him.
Mm. Yeah, I love that term, to bulletproof the business, to create
Mm-hmm.
something that is going to exist beyond you and continue to serve the people that you care about, and all that. That's um, very admirable ambition to kind of aim at in terms of building a business that lasts. And
Mm-hmm.
there are so many ways that you could kind of cut that up and turn it into something. And like you said, there's more products, more things that you can add in. And really I think the driving factor that I've recognized in the work that you're doing is that you come at it with a sense of curiosity, and that you look at
Mm.
all of these things not as challenges, but more so puzzles or things that you can solve.
Yeah,
And that seems to be very rewarding, both intrinsically and monetarily for you and the business.
yeah. And one other thing I think that needs to be said is that there are no small customers.
Mm,
Um, Everybody is deserving of your work. Obviously, you have a skill set, and you need to be willing to apply that full skill set for every customer. And everybody won't require, you know, 6 hours of intense something, because you've learned that thing.
yeah.
But everybody deserves a good solution. And say, well, just slap some so and so on it, should be okay. Really, is that how you want your stuff handled? And
Mm,
I bought a house a few years ago, and doing something, washing dishes, and all of a sudden I see water leaking out from under the sink. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I look under there and there's this plastic pipe and it's popped down. Of course, the sink was drained out. So I call, a plumber and I said, after drying it out and doing all the cleanup stuff, I said, I want all new whatever under here. I'm not sure what it needs. He looked at it, he says, well, two things. One is that this was not sealed properly. It might have been a DIY. And it's not angled so that the water will drain. Your water would actually sit in some of those pipes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I learned something. I mean, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But I appreciated, him educating me and giving me a good solution. And I didn't mind, writing a check for, whatever it is, to get that, handled. And then I called him again when my daughter said the dishwasher was one of the things that didn't work, and they just gave us a credit on it. So when the time came, I bought this fancy dishwasher and I called those same people and they installed it, And so I think that's, like you said, that's the work that you get because they built a trust with me. And I'm always looking to, promote and do and, whatever with people that I deal with. So if somebody has a unique thing, I say, hey, can I get a card from you? I mean, I run across a lot of people. Maybe I can refer. And I know you run across a lot of people. Maybe you can refer. So maybe I have a guy out there, doing things for me and I'm doing things for him. I say, oh man, you like wood burn signs? Oh, I just ran across a guy that does wood burn signs. Yeah, call him,
Yeah. That's
and
cool.
it's good karma and good, I think business, we used to always, in the old days, you would just trade. The blacksmith would shoe your horses and then you would, give him a basket of corn, for it type thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays we all need a buck.
That old world principle of the law of reciprocity or the golden rule, treating
Reciprocity,
people,
yeah.
yeah, how you want to be treated. And I think building a business around being in service of, I think is paramount. And then beyond that, going above and beyond what promises you make is what is
Mm-hmm.
part of your reputation, right? That's what people are going to be
Mm-hmm.
talking about. If they have an experience with you that is worth remarking on, then
Yeah.
people will share. So yeah, that's really cool. Listen, David, this has been absolutely wonderful. I'm very grateful for the insight that you've shared and the time that you've given us for the show here. To kind of wrap things up, I wonder if there was somebody else who's out there who's kind of up to it and facing some challenges. What advice would you offer somebody who's kind of out there trying to build something for themselves?
Um, you can get philosophical, but I believe that everything you want is on the other side of fear. Um, and all that means is that you just got to keep going. When I had two guys that weren't, running to par with me,
Mm.
um, I had to do something. It cost me, and it will cost you because to run a better business, it will cost you a little bit. But the overall and in the long term, the long run, is that you'll benefit, greatly from it, because it's going to be your heart. It's your name and your heart in your business, or at least you should put your name and your heart in your business, to keep it going. And it's the pride of accomplishment. I think that's the thing. If it was easy, we'd all do it, but it's not. So they'll talk about you at Thanksgiving until all of a sudden you have Thanksgiving at your house.
I love that, man. It's in alignment with my belief that there's a
Mm,
reason 1% of people are successful, and it's because they're willing to
yeah.
do that 1%, the 99% of the work. Um,
Hmm.
so when you find yourself at that crossroads of like, oh, should I or shouldn't I do this thing? Well, like you pointed out, the what's beyond that fear. If the fear is the thing
Hmm.
that's holding you back from doing the thing, that's what makes the 1% successful, is that
Hmm.
they do it scared.
Right. There you go. I like that. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
wonderful, man. Uh, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to my website, mltechs.com, www.mltechs.com. It's got my phone number and some examples of work and all that kind of stuff. So they can find me. I'm sure they can probably, what they call it, Google Moonlight, Moonlite, Techs, LLC now.
Beautiful. We'll make sure to link to whatever we can in the show notes so that anybody watching or listening can find you easily. And on that note, if you want to reach out to me and my team for any of your marketing or AI needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this interview. Thanks for joining us for this conversation, and I will see you in the next.